Hey guys, Thomas Cecily Jr. here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Downsizing. So I saw a few commercials for it, so I decided, I'll check it out. And, you know, not put all the political stuff or whatever was happening in the news with Matt Damon aside, because there was something, but I don't know what it was, so whatever. Anyway, going about the movie. This movie starts off with this doctor putting this rat to sleep and then putting it in some sort of device. And it works. We don't see what this working is, but 5 years pass. So, screw that noise, we gotta get to the main movie, right? So there's some sort of news reporter, some two people are talking about how overpopulation is the issue of mankind. And, you know, to an extent, I guess I don't think that's the case anymore. I don't know if that's still relevant or not. But anyways, the doctor we saw, we see that he has now shrunken himself, or he has had someone else shrink him in order to be small. So their cellular structure was shrunking into a miniature size. So for the duration of this movie, I will refer to these smaller individuals as the downsized people, just to make it simpler on myself. So the world is seeing this, I guess. We don't see what they're necessarily looking at, but I guess they're looking at the news. Anyway, we see Matt Damon's character, Paul, returning home to his mom, and she's in pain. And then she's talking about how, how they weren't able to cure whatever she was going through. I'm not necessarily sure what she said, but because I didn't write it down, but she was going through some sort of pain, and scientists were more focused on this rather than helping her specifically, I guess. So even more years pass. So screw that noise, cause we have to get to the main movie. So anyways, downsizing is becoming a thing, and the news is now talking about it, and, they're talking about the issues of, the whole politics around it, as I tried, they actually do talk about that in the movie, so it's kind of impossible to avoid completely, even in the movie, so there is that. Anyways, we see that Paul, meets his wife, or is now with a wife, I should say. Or they're getting ready to get married, I believe, at this point in time. Anyways, so there's some average time to the downsized people, and this is sort of one of the earlier issues in the movie. We see that in this one scene that the downsized people have to use microphones in order to communicate with the normal-sized people, but it's only one scene, and throughout the rest of the movie, we'd never see that again. And on the flip side, when the normal people talk, the downsized people never go deaf. Like, wouldn't sound be louder to someone that small? Science? What is science? Screw science, we have to get to the movie. So anyways, so yeah, that happens. It's just such a bizarre thing to call out, but it is there, so... So anyways, Paul's starting to become interested in what's going on, and we see them head over with Audrey, the wife, to this sort of, selling product, downsizing is this now product, I guess, and these two downsized people are actors trying to sell this product essentially, and they're like, hey, these are the benefits. Things will cost less because they are smaller to create, so it would be you would save so much money, and so on and so forth. And the other upside is that supposedly crime is at an all-time zero. There's no crime, which I highly doubt. Because later on in the movie, it's proven that people are talking about how there's potentially crime with the downsized people from other countries. So whatever. So, we see that, Paul's still considering it, and he's, like, at this bar now, and how this other guy's like, hey, since you're downsizing, you don't have the right to vote now, because you're paying less money. Even though I'm pretty sure that's not how voting works. I'm sure you put a certain amount of money in, but, I mean, if, in your taxes or whatever, but whatever, anyway. So the wife claims that she has forgotten something, which, by the way, goes absolutely nowhere. We never figure out what that something is, so that was a pointless scene. So we learn that there's no turning back from this downsizing process, which at this point, Paul and Audrey are at this place where the downsizing process takes place. And we learn that this downsizing process could also lead to death. Oh, lovely. At least that part of the science is so very accurate of, oh, take this pill and it has these benefits, but oh, look out, it has all these downsides, including death. And it's like, no, I don't think so anymore. So we see that in the process of downsizing that the people have to get their hair cut. All of their hair, by the way. And they get their teeth taken out, which kind of, okay, that makes sense, but then when they turn small, when they are downsized, they get replacement fake small teeth? I'm not sure. Like, they get some sort of teeth that are small. I guess they were separate things that they shrunk. I don't know, like. Anyways, we see that in the process that the wife injected, so she left, and Paul was already done at this point. So he's like, he gets in the car and he's all depressed and stuff. And we see, as I mentioned earlier, that there's potential crimes that, these supposed terrorists could, like, come in and they'd be downsized and they'd be able to move in, like, super stealthy and stuff like that. We see that product placement is lovely moved or used in this movie via Target, the store. And, oh, look at this, another 9 years pass. I believe it was 9 years, because we still have to get to the movie, guys. Oh boy. So he signs this paper, which ends up being a divorce paper. He's getting divorced from his wife because they are now separated. She has made her choice not to do this, and he's already small, he's already downsized, so, they are incompatible, I suppose. So he talks to one of his friends about now seeing someone else, and we see that conversation of how he's talking with this one lady, and that chat is really awkward. So his upstairs neighbor, who he suddenly, by the way, has a neighbor from out of nowhere when he moves in. Like, he moved in, he was alone, and then all of a sudden he magically has a neighbor? Okay, that makes no sense, but whatever. We have to get to the movie. So now he's downsized, and, he has this neighbor who's downsized, and he's doing this little party thing. So he meets this other woman, or he brings in the other woman, or tries to, like, get her out or whatever. And he's, like, trying to get in a kiss, and then she's like, oh, but my son, I believe it was her son. She never clarified who Jonah was. I don't know, I assumed it was her son. So anyways, he talks to Paul decides to join his neighbor, and they decide to have a little chat with one of with the party goers, or just him in general. So anyways, he meets some other guy. He meets like Ronnie, who's like one of the first people who were downsized, and he's like super popular because he was one of the first or whatever. So he meets this woman on the dance floor, and then he like takes this pill, and then he like they kiss, and then like he tries to spit it out, and he ends up being deeply drugged, and then he's like, oh, party seizure. And it looks really hard to, like, what is going on, of course, and it's pretty seizure-inducing, so, you know, this movie should probably come with a warning. Like, warning, this scene contains a seizure potential thing, whatever. So he talks to the neighbor when he's awake and stuff, and the neighbor claims that the world needs assholes for some reason. Not sure. I just wrote the world needs assholes. Cool. So he also believes that the everyone is not becoming small to save the world, which was, by the way, the initial goal supposedly, but more so that they could have more riches, which later on doesn't make any sense, by the way. So at this point, we see that what was it? A Vietnamese lady, I forget what her name was, comes in, and she's like this cleaning lady, and she's like, oh, you know, they'll take stuff and whatever. So she meets Paul, and then she's like, you know, they're having a moment. He's like, he sees that she has like a prosthetic leg and stuff, and then she's like demanding him to like come with him at some point to help her friend. So, talking about the whole thing about, you know, different areas, Paul and her go outside this fancy zone where they were initially at, and they end up in this, I guess I'll call it a different district. They never clarify, but whatever, I'll just call it a different district, where it seems a larger amount of general Asian and Latinos happen to live. Huh. Separation. Huh. So these people couldn't afford the luxury area? They had to get this whole condo apartment area, so everything about that, what that guy was just saying, was clearly a lie? Wow, how about that? So the Vietnamese lady talks about how her friend has cancer, and, you know, says she's gonna pass away regardless, and how she talks about how her husband's head exploded in the process of downsizing. I think it was her husband that she was talking about, or one of her relatives. So anyways, her friend dies, and she invites him to come back to fix her leg. So there's that. So Paul decides that he's gonna clean along with her, go shopping for her. So they're now spending time together. He meets some, you know, and he starts like helping out other individuals in that Latino/Asian district, and he helps like some boy with something. And get this, I believe it's 2 more weeks pass, because apparently we're still not in the movie, and we need to skip more time to get to the movie. So Paul joins the crew, the cleaning crew, at this point, officially. So we hear that the first company, the first downsizing area, is now having some sort of vague issue that we are learning about. So, in the process of learning about this, we see that they want to head over to Norway, which is where the initial area was. And the Vietnamese lady wants to go with them. So, and there's two others. There's the neighbor and some other guy. I completely forgot what the point of the other guy was. But anyways, she talks about how she got a letter from the first doctor who initiated this whole project in the first place, and that's the reason why she wants to go. So we cut to the new area, and we see that they have to point out where they are with a obvious white arrow for some reason. They couldn't just cut down to where they were. Whatever. So they meet with the first doctor, and he talks about how this thing that was mentioned somewhere earlier in the movie, I didn't write down where, it was one of the news moments where they mentioned methane, so it's brought back up at this point in time. And it's mentioned via the doctor's wife, and they're talking about it. And now they're talking about how the downsizing process has only affected 3% of the entire world. So, Paul brings the Vietnamese lady into a separate area, and then they start to kiss, because now they had fallen in love at this point in the movie. So, we learn that the end of the world is apparently going to be a thing, because of the whole methane thing that's being brought up. So, the doctor gives this last beach dinner that happens, and he brings them to this underground area, Paul that is, to show them that there's this area where they can survive this methane attack. The supposed methane attack, I should say. So we see that the Vietnamese lady wants to learn when they kissed. Apparently they also fucked. So she wants to know what kind of fuck what he gave, and she lists off of a variety of types of fucks, including a love fuck, which is what she initially thought, but then she switches over to a pity fuck, apparently, when he starts talking back to trying to explain what was going on there. So then this party's happening, because it's like their last moments or whatever, and, and she gives Paul a gift. I forget what it was, but whatever. But Paul figures that he wants to be. He figures he's meant for something bigger. He's meant for something more. So he starts to head inside the vent, and now he's like starting to head in there, this closed off area, and he starts to look back and forth when he learns that the process of going there is just going to take 11 hours, and he's looking back and forth still. So he chose to go back outside and join her. And they talk about how when you're in a near-death experience or learn that death is inevitable, that somehow love becomes a little bit easier, a little bit simpler. So they head back, all the way back, to the four of them, the ones that initially came to this area, back to the Latino/Asian district, and the movie bizarrely ends with Paul feeding this old man that we saw earlier in the movie. That's how the movie ends. And he's like, he says in Spanish, I believe it was, because the guy that was sitting there was Hispanic or some other, he says, "I'll see you tomorrow," and then that's how the movie ends. What a bizarre way to end the movie. Like, the whole methane thing doesn't go anywhere. I mentioned how something else I mentioned doesn't really go anywhere. There's so many time skips to try to get to the main point of the downsizing process. this movie feels so unbelievably rushed. Some of the science seems the science, or I'll say pseudoscience to be more, I guess, accurate in this case. Even that seems so off that it doesn't even feel believable, especially when you have one moment in the movie when the downsized people are using microphones and then they're not becoming deaf when they hear normal sized people. Like, these things aren't even considered in the movie, and it only happens in one scene, which, again, I ask, what was the point of that scene? Um, Politics aside, whatever. That aside, this movie still isn't that great. It just feels so rushed. It skips so much to get to the process. The main, you know, like crux or the main what's it called? Shoot. The main like threat of the movie is like nothing ever happens with it. This whole methane thing that's brought up twice in the movie, and the second time it's like, oh, we're gonna die, we're gonna die, we're gonna die, and then nothing happens. It's like, what was the point of that? Seriously, what was the point of having that even in the movie? If you want to go do your whole political message, whatever, fine. Do your political message, I don't care. I want to see a good movie. And this isn't a good movie, seriously. I'm going to give this movie a 3 out of 10. It's not great. It's so utterly rushed. And, regardless of what the acting is, it's too rushed. And there's not, when that happens, it's so hard to enjoy. You have that moment with the mother. She's only there for that one moment in the time before it skips. So, whatever she was complaining about seems kind of irrelevant because, it's already too late. But, whatever. Again, this movie is so rushed and whatever. So, 3 out of 10. And if you enjoyed this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out the link in the description that'll lead you to my Patreon. Any amount is greatly appreciated, any donations, that is. And until next time, everyone, bye!